Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order the Douglas County School District Board of Education meeting for November 13th at 6:07. Thank you for joining us. It's great to see a packed house tonight. I will begin with roll call. Director Chantra Shore.
Here.
Graziano. Here. Holtzman.
Here.
Lemieux.
Here.
Lung.
Here.
Ray here, and Vogel.
Here.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our agenda is to do some student and staff recognitions. Dr. Tucker.
Thank you, Director Ray, and all of our great directors, and all of our folks here who are here this evening. So let's get ready for student and staff recognitions. Good evening, everyone. Now you know what's coming next. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is a great, great day to be in Douglas County School District. I can't hear you. Yeah. Thank you for being here with the successful passage of our MLO and bond. It is indeed a great time to be here. So we have a lot to celebrate, but before we get to that celebration, we have an even more important celebration. So I want you to feast your eyes here on the screen here, not right now, but in a little bit. We have a quick video showcasing how one of our schools honored one of its own veterans yesterday.
On this Veterans Day at Castleview, there's a story at every table.
15 below zero, it is cold.
As students listen to their honored
The
guests,
summers were nice.
veterans open up about their past.
LST means large, slow target.
They caused a lot of problems over there. In fact, that was the one firefight I got into.
This table has a familiar story
With students like this, it makes it all worthwhile.
because it's their teacher,
Watching them,
Mr. Benson's story.
I had it for engineering, and then we also had it for architecture.
engineering background, not so much architecture, other than just building around my house.
Mr. Benson is actually very involved in my Boy Scout troop, too.
But it's different with someone you know.
They're my kids.
I wouldn't want to bring up anything that would make them feel uncomfortable.
Mr. Benson hasn't always been so comfortable,
Well, for many years, I really didn't talk about it much.
but his kids have made it a little easier.
When they have brought it up, I have asked them questions about just what their service entails.
He teaches us about submarines. Yeah, and tells us what it was like.
I served in Connecticut, was on 4 different boats out there, 4 submarines.
A nation of hope and a pillar of freedom.
His service during the Cold War is worthy of celebration.
The things we did really led to the Soviet Union ending.
Veterans Day is a time to reflect on freedom
Many times out at sea.
and to know that freedom isn't always easy to talk about.
It was hard being out there away from home.
Welcome to Castleview High School, and thank you for allowing us to honor you, not only today, but every day.
It was worthwhile. Sacrifice was worthwhile.
We had great programs like this throughout our district the last several days. Do we have any veterans here with us this evening? Any veterans? Relatives of veterans? Yes. Yes. Spouses and relatives of veterans, would you please stand? Yes. You certainly deserve a round of applause for the sacrifices that you've made as well. For the first time in 12 years, the voters of Douglas County said yes to additional local funding for our 68,000 students. Thank you. Thank you for investing in our schools. And now the real work starts. Our great Board of Education, our administrators, staff, and I, as well as other members of the community, need to ensure that we are great stewards of our taxpayers' dollars. And you're going to hear a lot about that a little later in terms of how we're going to do that. But at this time, I would like to recognize key members of the Citizens Committee, Bright Futures for Douglas County Kids, that made the passage of 5A and B possible. Peter and Maggie Beerbaum, please come up front, and President Ray.
We kid sometimes, but they have a son named Jake Miley. Actually, that was a faux pas in the newspaper one time, is that Jake was their son, but Jake is out of town. And so we also want to recognize Jake as one of the three that were what I would call the first responders, the ones that stepped up and said, we'll get this done for you. So again, a big round of applause to Peter, Maggie, and Jake Miley. You know, someone asked me, what is different this time for this election that was different from back in 2008, 2011, when we weren't able to pass an election? And what I would tell you is that what was different this time is that it was truly, truly a community-driven event. Literally at this podium several months ago, board directors, we remember, we had person after person from the community asking, pleading with us to put these two initiatives on the ballot. And that community spirit never stopped. Not only did it start there, but it drove the whole initiatives throughout the victory that we experienced last week. And so I would tell you that that's the biggest difference, is that this was not a board-driven kind of thing. It was not a superintendent-driven kind of thing. It was truly a community. And these two people up here represent that community that said, we're going to get it done. And just give us a chance, and we'll make it happen. There's a lot of people we want to recognize that also I would consider part of that group. And we're going to ask you, if you're here, just to stand up where you are so you can be recognized. Now, I know that as soon as we start calling off names, we're missing several, because we know we could literally fill a gymnasium with people that stepped up, people that committed time, people that sacrificed day after day to go and knock on doors, write postcards, and all those kind of extra things that caused this election to have the information people needed. So I'm just going to introduce these people, though, that we felt like really deserve our recognition for, again, being part of Maggie and Peter in terms of being first responders. So if you're here, just please stand and hold your applause till the end. Karen McGraw, Tricia McCombs, Randy Preble, Laura Welch, Meg Maston, Karen Becker, Connie Davidson, Patty Hickey, Delana Maines, Laura Reeves, Amy McDowell, Callie Leba, Sarah Mesmer, Jessica Smotherman, Ryan Chase, Gordon Marsh, Karen Zimmerman, Tiffany Martin, Kelly Pointer, Kathy Lees, Lisa Loomer, Stephanie Klein, Bill Larson, Gary Cawley, Cindy Barnard, Dan Smith, and Jennifer Mikowski. And thank you, Dr. Tucker. Page 2, Iko Browning, Emmy Long, Andy Abner, Rex Core, Tony Kappas, Amanda Knight, Aaron McCain, Tyler Chaffee, Nikki Mitchell, Karen Asensio, Kevin DePasco, and Kristen McCord. If you're here, please stand, and again, let's give them their due recognition. So Peter and Maggie, I know that certainly we want to give you guys the final word, because obviously, as I said, you are our first responders, and I know that so many people out here you would like to give some words to. So tell us, as you're thinking about this victory and as you're debriefing with us about the whys and what we can look forward to, what thoughts do you have?
The first thing I wanted to say is that's just a small sampling of the number of volunteers that came up. I would just ask, anyone here who either donated or knocked on a door or did a postcard or did anything for the campaign, please stand up just so you can see. And I know, come on, I'm sorry, I'm including all you guys, please. Everyone, it's just amazing. It really is amazing how the whole community came together for this effort. All the donors, it was businesses, it was volunteers, it was the district and teachers on the free time. It was this board behind us that put it on the ballot. It was everyone. But the victory doesn't go to any one of those groups. The victory goes to the 68,000 kids that will benefit from it in Douglas County. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks, son. I think my takeaway is that it takes moral courage to care, and it's taken our county some time to claim that back for ourselves, and it takes a lot of inner strength to sustain that across time, and there's warriors here that have done that for many years. Peter and I were amazed at the people that stepped up and have been doing this for a lot of years. So we're kind of like the relay race, and we jump in at the end and woo, we're the winners, but we're not. We were just another piece of this whole community. And I say, keep caring, keep having the moral courage to do that, keep having the inner strength to sustain it. Peter and I knew that we had to work the hardest of anyone on the campaign, and that was our philosophy every day that we did this, and we just hoped people would come along, and they did, and they were remarkable, and we're humbled, and we're grateful. Thanks.
One more recognition, if I may. So Maggie and Peter are absolutely correct. I mean, the work that was poured into this is, as we look around this room and see these wonderful pictures of students smiling back at us, that's what it was all about. And I think that's what fueled every single one of us, is looking at that young man right there and knowing that we're making a difference by going to that door and that one more postcard that when we're having writer's cramp. But I will also tell you that this couldn't be done without an exceptional leader that we selected for the school district. Dr. Tucker hit the ground absolutely running. Many times superintendents at least have a little period of time where they can kind of feel things out and observe and listen, and this man did not. And I would tell you that this man worked 24/7, whenever it was legal, 24/7 to work on this election. It was on his mind day and night. He worked until wee hours of the night. He would meet with anyone, our skeptics as well as our supporters. And, it's interesting to me, board, is that we were told early on that, you know what, if you do a superintendent, there's no way you're going to pass a mill levy and bond. The community just won't be able to tolerate all this change. And I would tell you that from my mindset, it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't selected Dr. Tucker for our superintendent. Now, I will tell you one more thing, is that there's this myth out there that says the only reason we hired you was to pass this thing. And I will tell you right now, Dr. Tucker, if you think you can rest, no. And he knows that. He came to us because of what he's going to do today and all the days forward. And we're looking so forward to seeing the great things that will happen for these kids that we're looking at around the room. So it's my pleasure for us to all acknowledge our CEO, our Dr. Tucker, our superintendent, our person that helped make this happen.
Thank you, Director Ray, and all of our directors and everyone here. That was a complete surprise. A complete surprise, but a welcome surprise. David, Director Ray talked about our 68,000 students, our why. So at this point, we're going to continue to recognize our 68,000 students. At this time, I want to talk a little bit about the schools we're going to recognize tonight: Chaparral High School, Legend High School, and Ponderosa High School. We're going to recognize some students who have done a tremendous job with their standardized assessments and who have been recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Program. Out of approximately 1.6 million students in our nation, these students are among the top 50,000 highest scoring participants. There are about 50 plus million public school students in America. And we're recognizing some of the 50,000 highest scoring participants. And folks, that deserves a hearty round of applause. So again, we're going to recognize outstanding students from Chaparral, Legend, and Ponderosa High School. So let's recognize Chap right away. Greg and Carrie, please come join me. Dr. Stevenson is our Executive Director of Schools for the Parker region. Now, Dr. Stevenson, tell me about this great feeling of having 3 of your schools recognized this evening.
Thank you. I want to congratulate all of the students that are receiving this recognition tonight. It's a wonderful honor to be in this category. But I also want to thank and celebrate our wonderful high schools and feeder systems, because the saying "it takes a village" rings true in this as well. I was really pleased to learn recently that out of all of the students that we are recognizing tonight for the Parker region, we had 2 of the students come to us in high school from out of district or out of state. We had 2 students come from our wonderful charter schools, and all of the remaining students are products of our neighborhood feeder system. So want to congratulate and thank all of the schools that have supported these students throughout their academic career.
Greg, would you share with us the names of Chaparral's commended and semifinalist students? And any of these, yeah, you know what? As soon as you call their names, let's hold the applause. Students, come on down and join your outstanding principal.
Caitlin Doyle, Kaylin Kosmiski, Sean Meadows, Brock Mullen, Tyler Oakley, Benjamin Reinecke, Damian Storkman, and Dylan Waddell, and Michael Loomer, too.
Now, I understand we had 9 students, commended students, I believe, and 1 student who moved from commended to semifinalists. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Now, talk a little bit about what this accomplishment means to Chap.
Well, I'll tell you what. So we talk about Chap family as kind of one of our mottos, and I know we have some parents out there, but I too share and get to be a proud papa for our team. This group represents an average GPA of 4.0. They've taken 78 AP courses. And more than that, most of them are involved in something else. We've got band members, cross country, baseball, lacrosse members, and they share their talents with us, and they provide leadership for our school. And it's so important at our school where the majority, critical mass of our students want to do the right things and work hard, and this represents that.
Outstanding. Now, let's hear from these wonderful scholars.
My name is Joanna, and it's great to be here tonight. My name's Caitlin, and I'm very proud to be here tonight.
I'm Michael, and it's Great to be here tonight. My name is Damien, and again, I'm happy to be here.
Yes, outstanding job, well done. Now, no speaking for this part here. We're going to take a group photo. Let's give our SHAP students one more round of applause. Next, we're going to honor our students from Ponderosa High School. Principal Tim Ottman, come on down. Yes. Now, Tim, would you share with us the names of the students at Ponderosa High School who are commended and semifinalist students? And of those students, if you're here when your fabulous principal calls your name, come on down.
I'd like to invite up Austin Porras, Sarah Gates, and I believe Maya Baltz might not be here because she already graduated. That's how smart she is. So, so these are our folks tonight.
Now, one more honor. Austin, I understand that you scored in the top 2.5% among Hispanic and Latino students on the PSAT test taken in our region. Is that right? Is that right? Let's give him a round of applause. Now, Mr. Ottman, as superintendent, I know what it means to me, but as a principal who works with these outstanding scholars every day, what does it mean to you?
Well, one of the things that amazes me is the fact that not only are they committed and dedicated, but they sacrifice a lot of time and effort to make sure that their studies and their academics are where they need to be. But in addition to that, they have an amazing ability to balance their lives. As I was talking to them a couple of days ago, they shared with me the involvement, I'll echo what Greg said, of not only the things that they do in the classroom and on standardized tests, but Sarah has a job. Austin's an Eagle Scout. They're involved in tennis and National Honor Society and all these different things. And it amazes me that they can do all this and still be and have the success that they have. And so I just want to tell them how proud Ponderosa is of you and your amazing accomplishments. Thank you so much for your efforts.
Now, Austin and Sarah, are you ready for your 20-minute congratulatory speech? Okay, he's ready. Any comments?
I just want to say thank you guys for recognizing me, and thank my parents right there for supporting me throughout my whole life, and all the teachers in Douglas County have helped me get here.
I also just want to say thank you, especially to my parents and like my teachers and friends that have helped me get to where I am today.
Outstanding. So let's squeeze in for a quick photo op. One more round of applause for Ponderosa High School. Next, we're going to honor students from Legend High School. Principal Jason Jacobs, come on down. Jason, would you be so kind to share the names of Legend High School's commended and semifinalist students? And if any of those students are here tonight, please come on down.
Thank you. Could Emily Counts come join us? I'm not sure if I did not see her here. Caleb Tamanja, Srinivas Yadara, say that name 100 times. Aaron Scott, Victoria Messmore, and Dane Reiber.
Now, Mr. Jacobs, what does this honor mean for your students and your staff at Legend?
Well, first off, for me, it's a sense of pride, right? Because we talk about we are family, we are one, we are Titans. And then I also come back to all the things that Mr. Gochi and Mr. Ottman said, that you guys are also those students that are involved in so many other things. It's not just about the standardized tests and the studying that goes into that, but it's how you represent yourself on a daily basis and the things that you're involved in, the leadership. And it's also, something about with all your teachers. So make sure you guys take the time to go and thank them for all their efforts that they, put in with you guys through the years. So I'm just proud of you guys, proud of everything that you guys have accomplished, but it's also parents. So if the parents could stand up too, if you're here, this is your son and daughter, if you could please stand up. I can have a round of applause for you. Truly takes a village to do it, so I'm just glad that I get to spend that time with you guys. So thank you for everything you guys do at Legend.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So Titans, what do you have to say?
Big thanks to Mr. Jason Jacob. He's a man. Thanks to my dad, my parents. This is really awesome. I study hard for the test, so I'm really proud of this.
Of course, thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you so much, Mr. Jacob. And I'd like to say thank you to the district.
I'd also like to thank my parents for pushing me to try really hard. I also want to thank the district and the board for making a district in which we can exceed and where we have the opportunity to do great things like this. So thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a quick photo, and then we'll move on with the program. Okay, quick photo here. All right, let's give the Titans another round of applause. Okay, this concludes our recognition program for this evening. And again, I want to thank our honorees for giving us a reason to celebrate. All right. Again, thank you, students and parents and relatives and all that. We're pleased to have you here. Next on our agenda, board is to accept the proposed agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion been moved by Vogel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lemieux. Any further discussion? Director Lung?
I would like to move number 11 from the consent agenda. I have been previously submitted questions, and for total transparency, I would like my questions to be answered in public, so the public knows what questions do I ask and what's the answer for that.
So Director Vogel, the motion is being requested to be amended to remove number 11. Is that amendment you accept?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to accept the consent agenda with the exception of number 11. Is there further discussion? I am just going to offer, and Director Lung, first of all, I do appreciate that you put forward some questions about that item, but I am going to remind board directors, and I'm going to expand on this later if we do approve this motion, but I think that we need to work to take what I call a balcony perspective as board directors. And so I'm going to caution us, especially when we look at consent agenda items, I'm just going to caution us that if it's looking like it's operational, if it's looking like something that staff is responsible for doing, that I think we need to be cautious that we aren't dipping into that level of supervision for our district. So I'm just going to put that out there, and that will also lead me to why I'm voting the way I'm voting. So, any further discussion?
Yes.
Director Lung?
In responding to your comment, I found that ironic that in the last board meeting, this is an items not in the consent agenda for us to discuss. And after discussions between the staff and Hope, it became a consent agenda without any further discussions, which I found ironic because, as you said, if that is the case, why would that not be in the consent agenda in the past meeting? So I just want to make sure that this is a consistency sake, so the public don't think that we are hiding something, because in the last board meeting, this is a discussion agenda, and after some sort of a backroom deal, then it become a consent agenda. It just doesn't look good, for us. So I appreciate, for your philosophy, and if this is the philosophy from moving forward, maybe anything considered operational should be in the consent agenda. Not 1 week it is consent agenda, the other week is not.
Fair enough. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will take a vote to adopt the consent agenda. Oh, sorry. Was there, Director Vogel.
I was just going to comment that we often will have a presentation or a discussion or something that comes to us on a regular agenda for it to be showing up later on consent agenda. So I just wanted to point out that that's not an unusual occurrence for the way we operate.
Thank you, Director Vogel. Any further questions or discussion? Motion's been made to accept the consent agenda with the exception of number 11. We'll take a vote. Chancho Shore. Is there a question? You look puzzled. Go ahead, Chancho Shore.
Pass.
You're going to pass? Fair enough. Graziano. Director Holtzman.
While I understand President Ray's sentiments, and I think going forward that's definitely something that we should consider, I also understand Director Lung's position that he had questions and at the last meeting and hasn't received answers. So I'm going to vote aye to accept the agenda with that.
Thank you, Director Holtzman. Director Lemieux?
Aye.
Director Lung? Aye. Ray is a no. Vogel?
Aye.
Chancho Shore?
Aye.
Graziano? Aye. All right, that motion passes 6-1, and the consent agenda is adopted, and then that leads us to number 11. And so, Director Lung, this is your item, so I'll go ahead and let you introduce and, I'm sorry.
That was acceptance of the agenda, not
I
consent
apologize.
agenda.
That's correct. Thank you for that clarification. We simply accepted the agenda and not the consent agenda. Thank you. I apologize. We are now ready to go on, though, to public comment. So during public comment, the board desires to hear the diverse viewpoints from a broad spectrum of citizens throughout the district on any issue that impacts the educational needs of students. The board would like for all discourse that occurs in this room to be respectful. Everyone in this room plays a role in modeling that appropriate behavior and promoting a climate of mutual respect. Our belief is that we can be hard on issues and easy on people. Therefore, we would ask that speakers refrain from using individual names in an offensive manner that might distract from the issue of concern. It's also important to understand that we will adhere to Board Policy KE Public Complaints, which outlines the process for responding to grievances and complaints as close to the origin as possible. Therefore, we encourage the proper channeling of concerns. For example, concerns that involve a child should begin with the teacher, then the building administrator, then the director of schools, assistant superintendent, and superintendent before appealing to the Board of Education. We also would ask that a similar process be used if you have concerns regarding a specific board member. The first step is to contact that specific board member. If there is no resolution, then contacting myself or Vice President Vogel. If it's still not satisfactorily resolved, then addressing the entire board would be appropriate at that time. Each speaker tonight will be allotted up to 3 minutes to address the board. Please know that it is our time to just listen, and therefore an immediate response is usually not given. However, we will take your concerns seriously and do everything possible to get your questions answered or request an appropriate staff member to get in contact with you. I will be calling up speakers. The first speaker is the one to speak, and then there will be also a second speaker I will call if he would also come to the front of the room to be ready to speak afterwards. Our first speaker tonight is Dennis Houston, and after Dennis is Courtney Xander. Good evening. No, Dennis, it says check and see.
Is that better?
That's perfect.
Awesome. Well, as the CEO of the Parker Area Chamber of Commerce, I'd just like to say, hey, all these kids were from Parker tonight, so. That's all I'll say about that.
Noted.
Yes. So, this has been one of those back-to-back meeting days for me, and it's my 11th meeting, but this is the one I've been looking forward to the most for the entire day. So, I'm energized to be here. Good evening. On behalf of the business community throughout Douglas County, I'm here tonight to say congratulations on a job well done. Your leadership as the Board of Education in collaboration with Superintendent Thomas Tucker has been absolutely incredible. We would also like to thank the hundreds of volunteers who made this happen. The success of both the bond and mill levy override ballot initiatives will be transformational for the future of our 68,000 students. To quote you, the Board of Education, from your statement following the election, quote, "While we celebrate this victory for our children, the Board recognizes that there is still great work to be done to earn trust for stewardship of the resources taxpayers are providing. We are committed to demonstrating that promises made will be promises kept and promises completed." Unquote. I applaud you for this proactive approach to bringing our community together as we work towards the future of our kids. A key focus within your goals for the community are to provide collaborative parent and community relations. Two of the ways that you plan to do this are by bringing parents, guardians, families, and community members together to partner with each other and the district to empower students to maximize their individual educational experience. And secondly, by collaborating with community, business, government, and organizational leaders to provide opportunities for students to create positive change and provide service to our community. I believe that this funding will provide a tremendous environment for both of these initiatives to succeed. Connecting business with education to help our kids find their future careers is the most important thing that I will do as a Chamber CEO over the next decade. Please know that you are not in this alone. The business community is standing by your side and ready to collaborate as your partner in career and technical education. It's time for Douglas County Schools to be the nation's leader in the future of CTE education. In closing, taking care of our educators as the true professionals that they are is the right thing to do. Reinvesting in our facilities is the right thing to do. Hiring additional guidance and career counselors is the right thing to do. Creating a stronger focus on career and technical education is the right thing to do. Doing all of these things for our students' future is the right thing to do. And last but not least, having ideas that are big is the right thing to do. Let's go do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
Thank you.
We also are grateful for your support and your ongoing support for our children. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
Courtney Xander. After Courtney Xander is Roy Martinez.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, good evening.
All right. Hi, my name's Courtney Xander. Let me start off by saying that I have dyslexia. I'm 15 years old and I'm a freshman at Castleview High School. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background of having dyslexia and telling you about my struggles. I have some important things to say. In first grade in Duluth, Georgia, I was told that I had dyslexia. I remember the day I was told, but it was very overwhelming. Since that day, my life at school has changed. I have had an IEP since second grade, and I still struggle. I have always been pulled out of classes, tested all the time, and when I say all the time, I mean all the time. Being pulled out of class makes me feel really dumb. Having dyslexia does not mean you are dumb. I'm not dumb. I'm very smart. I have good grades, and I work really hard. I moved to Colorado before 4th grade, and I was enrolled in Soaring Hawk Elementary. One day I was taken out of class to meet with the learning specialist. I said I had dyslexia. She says, "We don't say the D word." I said, "Why?" She said, "It makes people feel bad about themselves." And I'm thinking, why can't I say I have dyslexia? That makes no sense. If I had the flu, why would you not say that you had the flu? But you aren't allowed to tell people, so they can't help you with that. If I don't say I have dyslexia, I won't get help. So think about that. If you are teaching kids not to say that their disability, that's horrible. If we do not know why we are being pulled out of class, why we are struggling in school, we will make kids feel pretty bad about themselves. We don't have to be ashamed of dyslexia. That's crazy, completely crazy in my mind. I have dyslexia. I don't need to hide it. I can climb to the top of the rock, wherever it is, and scream it as loud as I can. I start off with an alarm, and the first thing I think about is how I have to go to school. It makes me really sad because I know that my day is going to be really hard and harder than everybody else's. I'm really scared that people are going to be mean to me because I have dyslexia. But I get up and get ready and go. I feel this way because I have to work 10 times harder than other kids to get through the day. I feel this way when I have to leave my class to go to the learning lab for assistance on a reading prompt out of class, or having to go to the learning lab to take a test because I need extra time and no distractions to complete my test and also have it read to me. This is really hard to get up in the middle of a classroom with a bunch of 15-year-olds that are dead silent and say, "I need this test read to me." It's the worst fear in the world, and I have to do that multiple times a day. My hope for myself is that I do not have to wake up every day anxious and overwhelmed. My hope for Douglas County kids is that all teachers are educated on dyslexia and programs are developed so that we do not have to feel dumb in our classes and I can't say this word, and have to be ashamed of it. This should be a part of our schools, that people know what dyslexia is. Dyslexia is more than reading. Most kids have dyslexia, have high anxiety, which can lead to depression too. Please make changes to help all kids with dyslexia. 1 of 5 kids has it. Don't let these kids go through it alone like I've had to. Thank you.
Ms. Xander, fantastic. Well said. Well said.
No one wants to follow.
That is a hard act to follow,
especially
indeed.
that eloquent.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Martinez, you're on. After Roy Martinez is Calissa Brega.
My name is Roy Martinez. I'm a parent at STEM School, Highlands Ranch, and actively participate with the school's leadership in SAC and the PTO and the board. My family volunteers at numerous school activities and organizations. STEM represents Douglas County as a school of firsts. First in enrollment preference in Douglas County for over 1,850 students, and over 1,300 students are on our wait list right now. Combined, this represents almost 5% of the district's students who might otherwise exercise their choice in other districts or a private school. We are first in student achievement on almost all standardized tests within Douglas County. We are first in minority representation with 38% of our students. This is a big one for me because my daughters feel safe and happy with this amount of diversity. We are first to share our resources, knowledge, and faculty with our sister schools in Douglas County and in Colorado, as evidenced by our Synchronized Learning Center and our sharing of equipment and labs with students from other schools. We are first in growth rate among special students. This is particularly astonishing when you consider we have 661 students on IEPs or 504s or identified as GT. That's a third of our school. Many of our families have students not just at STEM, but at other non-charter schools in the district. We fill a niche. There are many learning choices in the district, but few alternatives for effective learning for many of our students outside of STEM. We expend great effort to recruit teachers to Douglas County, teachers with PhDs and MDs, university professors, industry leaders seeking to make a difference, and seasoned teachers famous for being the best. We introduce these educators to our community. When faculty members decide to move on, many stay in DCSD and now teach elsewhere in the district. This is a boon for all in a time of teacher shortage. We bring positive attention to the district with award-winning students, students whose projects are on the space station, students who garner national attention, appearing on network TV talk shows for their amazing gifts. Students who may finish first, but year after year try to be better at state and national technology competitions, best robotics, first robotics, cyber patriot competitions, spelling bees, essay contests, National History Day, and on and on and on. Students who are usually singled out by their competitors as the nicest and most honorable peers. We do our best to represent Douglas County students. Our efforts are routinely featured in the local national media. The state of Colorado sends many school leaders and dignitaries to Douglas County to see how our students learn. The governor's office asks our administrators to serve on important educational matters. The U.S. Department of Education made STEM school and its leaders the topic of one of its blogs. We have even received accolades as one of the top 30 schools in the world. You asked for our support in supporting ballot issues 5A and 5B, and we gave it. Now I ask for your support in renewing our charter for another 5 years without hampering our mission with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Calissa.
Wait. This is really important. One of our students was just named on the Forbes 30 Under 30 in science.
Very good. Congratulations.
He's only an 8th grader. Can't give the name, though.
Thank you. Calissa Brega, and then after Calissa is Kale. Good evening.
Hi.
Did I pronounce your last name right?
Braga.
Braga?
Close, yeah.
I was trying to decide.
You got the
long
first
A or
name, which
short
is
A.
usually the hard ones.
All right. All right, welcome.
Hi, I am Calissa Brega. I stood in front of you, most of you, almost 3 years ago, asking for the STEM school expansion to be approved. At the time, I had a 2nd grader who desperately needed the STEM environment. Amazingly, the expansion was passed, and the child I came to speak about is now a 5th grader at STEM. He's a 2E kiddo who is finally thriving in an environment we couldn't be happier with. For the first time ever, he is being challenged. Though he may not love that part, it's something that we love about STEM. He's been allowed to grow and push as far as he wants, and next year as a 6th grader, he will start in a math class I never even had offered until high school. His teachers and the leadership staff have been great about understanding that sometimes his diagnosis causes him to need things presented or handled a little differently. Never has he fit in so well. Never have we had teachers contacting us to make sure he was doing okay. Even just the open line of communication between his teachers and us has changed. Needless to say, we could not be happier with how he is doing at STEM. While we had no doubt that STEM was the place for our 5th grader, I wasn't quite as sure with my younger child. She is a 2nd grader this year. She attended kindergarten and 1st grade at our neighborhood school and was doing very well. But as the coming school year is approaching, I had a 4-year-old starting preschool, and I wasn't sure how to get 3 kids to 3 different schools with 6 different times. As my 2nd grader is a different personality than my older, I wasn't sure if she was a STEM kid. I was assured by many friends and staff that she would do well there. I finally had her visit for a day in spring, and she has begged since then to go to STEM. She started there this year, and although she is my artsy free spirit, she has thrived at STEM. So why am I telling you all of this? We know that STEM is up for charter renewal this year. We also know you have received some communication from parents who have had issues with STEM. As my 5th grader struggled at a school where many other kids have thrived, I understand where they're coming from. However, I ask them and you to realize that STEM has improved every year. that for some kids, like my oldest, it was this or homeschooling. We were out of options. So we need STEM, and we will fight for STEM, and I'm happy to discuss with anyone opposing STEM's charter renewal. And even better, I have 2 kids who would love to tell you why they not only need this school, but why they love it.
Good. Thank you, Mrs. Braga. Cale Braga?
Brindley, you want to stay up here with me? Hi, I'm Cale Brega, and as she said, yeah, my old school, it wasn't like right for me. It's just I didn't like it. It wasn't at the same level for me. Like but at STEM, it fits to me. Like it adjusts, and also as she said, I know it's good. I know it's going to help affect my future. And I know that I don't like being challenged now, but I know it will help me.
Very good. Thank you, Cale. Well done. Natalie Vasquez. And after Natalia Vasquez. After Natalia is Heidi Elliot.
Hello, I'm a STEM Student Council representative for 5th grade. This year I'm a new student at STEM. The innovative teaching approach has inspired me as a student to go above what I'm told to do. The teachers at STEM help me learn better and help me succeed in school. The learning in STEM has helped me understand real-world problems, and I have created ways to solve them. STEM's innovative approach teaches students to think about what is really happening in the world. The way of teaching in STEM makes you think more about the topic and then presenting it in a topic in a different way. I think STEM is a wonderful school and teaches students in a very unique way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. Heidi Elliot. After Heidi Elliot is Jeannie Brivert.
Well, it's hard to follow the students, but I'll give it a shot. My name is Heidi Elliot, and I'm also here on behalf of STEM School Highlands Ranch. I have twins. They're in 7th grade, and I have a handout because I believe in visuals. I think it's great to see the kids that we're talking about, and so I have a little something to show you. My husband and I first heard about STEM several years ago and were intrigued by the idea of a STEM education. We were at the neighborhood elementary and looking for something really different with our middle school. We were incredibly impressed with STEM. I remember when we first toured and it just felt like chaos inside, and the leadership told us, yeah, if you're looking for kids to be set up in rows listening to lectures, you're in the wrong school. We don't do that here anymore. Kids are up on their feet, collaborating, working together, and always using their hands to create things. It's a very different kind of school. They not only focus on the disciplines of science, technology, engineering, and math, but also excel in language arts, social studies, music, foreign language, and arts. My son is a true STEM kid. He is 2 years ahead in math, loves science and engineering. He's been coding in several languages for years, and he found a home where he has great friends and surrounded by everything that he loves. But my daughter is more of an all-around kid. She loves science and math, but she loves to read and write. She's an artist, and she is an athlete playing club volleyball. This semester, she has a science elective where she is doing an independent field study on domestic cat behavior, working with the Dumb Friends League on her research paper, and she's 12 years old. So on the handout, you can see some pictures of them. The first is my son's TSA team, the Technology Student Association team. They won off the grid. They took first in state, and we went to nationals in Atlanta. Who knew there was a nationals? But we went to Atlanta, and they took 7th overall in the country. This year, both my kids are competing in TSA, and that's where they were this afternoon. Below are a few photos for the 7th grade field trip that they took last week to San Diego. They got to go to Sea Camp and study marine biology for a week. They loved it. They are dissecting a mackerel and doing field work in the tide pools, and they just loved it. My son's also involved in the Dungeons and Dragons Club. My daughter played trumpet in the band, sang in the choir. These are just some examples of the things that you do at STEM. I looked up the SAT scores on the CDE website myself to verify what I could learn from that, and I found that STEM was ranked number 8 out of all the 387 public high schools in the state with an SAT score of 1232. The next closest Douglas County school is number 23, that's Rock Canyon. The STEM students scored 143 points higher than the Douglas County average, and as you know, Douglas County scored way above the state. So it's one of your most high-performing schools. I urge this board to renew the STEM charter for a full 5 years so that STEM School Highlands Ranch can continue its success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Elliott. Jeannie Brevert, and after Jeannie is Daniel Smith. Is Jeannie here? And I know I'm doing a terrible job with your last name. It's Brevoort. Is Jeannie here? Okay. So we're at Daniel Smith. After Daniel Smith is Darian Sloan Wilson. Mr. Smith?
Wow, I thought I was going to have 2 minutes here to get ready with my comments. It's a real privilege to be here, and I want to thank all of you for your hard work in helping us get the bond and the MLO passed. It's a resounding victory for the students, and it's a resounding victory for the future of Douglas County. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. I've already heard the messaging talking about we need to be responsible stewards. I'm sure you all have knocked on more doors and talked at more meetings than I have. In the hundreds of doors that I knocked on, I even spent some time in internet discussion groups, which I'm not sure is the most sane place to be during a political campaign. There's a lot of skepticism around administration. Everybody, I think I knocked on 500 doors. Everybody I talked to supports education. The concern they all identified is with administration. I'm requesting you all to please be extremely, excruciatingly buttoned up in terms of how we comply with the terms of this particular MLO and the bond issue. It's not just a question of meeting the terms of what we laid out, it's a question of making sure we manage the optics. If we give $17 million to teachers and staff, let's make sure that goes to staff. The optics, $500,000 goes to administration and $16.5 million goes to principals. That might be the last glass of water we get after having wandered in the desert for 12 years. I'm very much encouraged by where we're at. I encourage you all to continue to do everything you can to make sure we earn that public trust. Just as a little closing fact point, 5A won by 8,000 votes, 73 lost by 14,000. We got 22,000 voters here in Douglas County who aren't going to look at an education thing and say, oh yeah, that looks great. We've got to be buttoned up in the execution. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but in the midst of all this jubilation and victory celebration, just wanted to sound that note. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Darian Sloan Wilson. After Darian is Stephanie Van Zent. And you don't look like Darian. But we
Darian's at home with her husband, who he needed to stay with him.
Thank you for pinch hitting, Ms. Patty.
Thank you.
If you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Patty Hickey, and I'm here speaking for Darian, my friend. And she wanted me to share with you. I'm so sorry I can't be here to say thank you to all of you. Thanks especially to the Douglas County Board of Education for your tireless work in passing the first bond MLO in 12 years. You have worked so many hours outside of your normal duties, meeting with constituents on evenings and weekends, successfully making the case for investing in our schools. We see your effort, and we are so grateful for the many, many volunteer hours you pour into this district. Every one of you went above and beyond, and you did it. You did it. Superintendent Tucker, thank you. Your leadership was instrumental in passing 5AB. Thanks also to the Bright Futures, especially Maggie and Peter Bierbaum and Jake Miley. Almost 70,000 kids, including my own, will benefit for years to come because of your efforts. I can't thank you enough. It was heartwarming to see so many staff members working on this effort. Special thanks from me to the principal, Katie Lynch at Northridge Elementary, Mike Weaver at Mountain Vista, and Executive Director of Schools, Ian Wells, among others. And Andy Abner at Rock Canyon, you are amazing. Thank you. Lastly, thanks to my fierce parent friends, too many to name, who painted cars, donated, canvassed, called, and made this happen. My amazing friends and Douglas County parents, Stephanie Chansey, the best car painter around, Kathy Leese, Karen Asensio, my neighbor Meg Maston, Laura Welch, and my husband, Joe Wilson. Laura Reeves was a force behind 5A and B and donated a kidney on the eve of the election, so she has earned a lifetime of thanks, recognition, and respect. And a trophy, all the trophies. Though the fight for public education in Douglas County has challenged many of us, our community came together and emerged stronger and with the unity of purpose. Thank you, thank you, thank you. From Darian.
Thank you, Mrs. Hickey. On behalf of Mrs. Wilson. Stephanie Van Zent. After Stephanie Van Zent is Liz Wagner. Good evening.
Good evening. Directors, Dr. Tucker, and your staff, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Stephanie Vanzani. I have lived in Douglas County for 17 years, and both of my children graduated from DCSD. I am now one of the so-called 70%, which is a little weird to say, frankly, but it gives me a little perspective stepping back from the day-to-day stuff that's going on. There's one item on the agenda I would like to address tonight, and that's the addition of a chief academic officer. I want to be sure that I'm clear. This is a position that's needed in DCSD to address the gaps in content across the schools that have occurred because of the previous board and permanent superintendent's agenda for competition versus collaboration. DCSD desperately needs collaboration across neighborhood, charter, magnet, and alternative schools. The only way to assess best practices that are driven by educational research while implementing them at a site level that works best for each school is to have a chief academic officer. Children enrolled in DCSD in Parker or their parents shouldn't be concerned if they decide to move neighborhoods that their education is going to follow without having to open enroll. There are several reasons that choice is positive, but having to do it because of content isn't one of them. Because the competition angle that was touted incessantly without data to support it, opportunity suffered for our children. The previous permanent superintendent hired resources that didn't live in the district, planned to move to the district, or participate in our community. The community of DCSD suffered when outside consultants made decisions for our local children. That brings me to the hiring of Ms. Gross-Taylor. While I'm positive a role of this magnitude doesn't happen in a vacuum, the optics of this salary and benefits less than a week after the measure's passing should be addressed. The benefits being offered include reimbursement for all health, dental, and vision insurance premiums. I'd like to understand the cost to the taxpayers over the last 5 years for those with this benefit at the administrative level, and understand why a salary of $169,000 would not afford any individual to pay their premiums when you do not offer this benefit for the majority of your employees. 35 vacation days, in addition to 10 governmental holidays by the district, is more than most private companies offer a new hire. That's 9 weeks of vacation. Why has there always been this amount versus an earning of paid time off for years of service? Before it's indicated that it's commensurate with other staff having summers off, remember, that staff doesn't necessarily choose to have their summers off versus having the schedule dictate it. Frankly, I would expect a cabinet level member of this district to have more responsibility that matches the level of salary. Please rethink the optics of doing what we've always done, because that's what the old contracts have stated. Finally, the previous permanent superintendent and legal wrote a rather shocking contract for an employee giving them intellectual property rights for anything created in their role. While that is not outlined in this contract, I would specifically like it outlined that it's the property of DCSD and not to be used without permission from the superintendent or his designee, with the superintendent publishing why it was granted, if it is. Transparency at the highest levels after the decade of questionable educational practices is paramount for building trust back in DCSD. Ms. Gross-Taylor has a consulting company, which is fine, but your own policy, GBEA-R, specifically states all of the conflicts of interest. I'd like to see in this and future contracts specifics outlined to the individual being hired, what is and is not appropriate, so the public has the same foundational expectations for their service. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Van Zenti. Liz Wagner. After Liz Wagner is Les Lilly.
Directors, good evening. My name is Liz Wagner. I'm a lifelong conservative, and I supported 5A and 5B. Unicorn. I'll start with a riddle. What costs $10 and lasts 50 years? Agenda item number 18. I'm here this evening to share my concerns regarding agenda item 18, the joint use of Apex facility. The school district leased the land to Apex at a cost of 20 cents per year for 50 years, or to say it another way, a total of $10. The land at the time the lease was executed was valued at $1.5 million. According to DCSD's own enrollment and projection data, there is capacity within the Castle Rock area to absorb both bridge and preschool programming in buildings the district already owns. It doesn't make sense that the district as a tenant would pay for the full cost of the tenant finish of a building at a cost of $500,000 to $1 million in a space the district essentially doesn't own and located on land the district essentially gave away. It's also not customary for the tenant to absorb the full tenant finish cost in commercial real estate. If you put a district preschool in Apex's building, you will be spoon-feeding enrollment to Apex at the expense of our neighborhood schools. As of October 29th, Apex had 141 non-binding expressions of interest. In contrast, the charter school currently leasing the Apex building enrolled 200 students in 2 weeks after they announced their permanent building in Lone Tree. A charter school succeeds because they offer an educational model that parents and students demand, something that has consistently been missing for Apex, and I don't know why. On pages 138 through 139 of the Apex charter application in the appendices under a private foundation, under the IRS code bullet point, it states, quote, "They shall not engage in any self-dealings," end quote. Also on page 141, COI policy under 2.1, quote, "Any entity in which a director has ownership or investment interest," end quote. Was the now principal of Apex a director at the time that payments from Apex were made to his own firm, the ones referenced in the Apex board minutes? I would caution you against moving forward into leasing space from Apex, as it will cost this district not only financially, but also it could lose the trust of the community. I also want to express my disappointment that progress has not been made with the selection of a consultant to study enrollment, capacity, and boundaries. Since April, when this was approved by you as a Board of Education 7 months ago, an RFP was put out and 4 firms responded. Long-range planning has stated it is expensive to have under and over-enrolled schools. The cost of 12,000 empty seats is tremendous. But here's my praise. I'm thrilled to see forward progress on school start times and a survey being launched this Friday. I'm excited for our staff to see some forward movement in the salary compression that has taken place thanks to the funding of 5A. One correction I would make to the slide presentation is that paras should not be classified as a benefit. It too is compensation, it's deferred compensation. And last but not least, I'm cautiously optimistic about the addition of a chief academic officer. I'm hopeful that Dr. Tucker will provide additional details of the objectives that this person will be charged with meeting, specifically district alignment of curriculum and content accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. Les Lilly.
Thank you, Director Ray and fellow directors. First of all, congratulations, 5A and 5B, and don't kid yourselves. It really started behind the diocese, so well done. Anyway, I'm going to here to talk real briefly, attack the issue. Compensation, the employee compensation. I guess to cut to the chase, I have to apologize that I wasn't able to run this up through the administration staff, but since this was just completed Sunday and yesterday was a crazy day and I sit behind a steering wheel and not a computer, it was really hard to review this. But I guess what I want to ask is what happened to the 2% pay increase per year for the pay freeze years that was being discussed for classified pro-tech and admin people? I think 1.5% is not justifiable. I think like a lot of us, we endured those same years that the teachers did in 08, 09, 9, 10, and 11, and 12. And you talk about continuity, how about treating us all the same? So I'm really interested in what did that. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to talk with staff about the survey results, but I'm kind of curious as to what drove drove the survey in the first place, because I thought a lot of these issues were already addressed prior to you even putting 5A on the ballot. And with that, one of the specific questions I have is on the pay freeze adjustment survey results. It says out of 4,251 employees responded, that equaled 57.2%, that they felt that it was very important to rectify the pay inequality caused by those pay freeze years. I know staff would have this answer, is how many of those were teachers that responded to that question that already got it? Real fair question. And then compared to how many were certified, how many classified admin and pro-tech people, responded in that 57.2%. So anyway, in a nutshell, we're all here together. Teachers, administrators that I talk to say, hey, we can't do our job without you. And I like to say, well, obviously I can't do my job without you either. So the continuity and where's that at? What's fair? What's fair and what's equitable? So if teachers got 2% and was compounded, I really think, and I have a lot of people approaching me, that 2% should be what should be given to those classified pro-tech and admin people that endured those same pay freeze years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lilly. Just a quick comment, Mr. Lilly. Stay to the rest of our meeting and your questions will be answered. All right, we're going to, at this time, close public comment unless Jeannie B, is she here? No. Okay, so we're going to close public comment.